This is Homeschool 101, a collaboration between ABS Television and the Ministry of Education. Stay attentive and attempt all activities. And now, today's lesson.
Good day, welcome back to Tourism, and we'll be looking at Unit 1, Tourism for Unit 1, Cape. And the topic we're going to be starting with is Introduction to Tourism. And I'm a lecturer, Ms. Farah Williams. So before we get into the lesson, we're going to start with an activity. So what I want you to do is think about a trip that you took with either by yourself or with your family or friends within the last year. So I'm not talking about the COVID-19 year. I'm talking about previous to that. Okay, so think about the trip. Think about the things you did, where you went, how many persons were with you, length of stay. All right, so take a minute, think about that, write that down, and we're going to come back to complete our activity.
You're watching Homeschool 101.
Okay, so here's my answer. Okay, so in terms of where I visited St. Bart's. Who was traveling with me? I was with my daughter. The reason for, all right, so here's my answer. All right, so here's my answer. In terms of where did I visit, I went to St. Bart's. Who was traveling with me? It was myself and my daughter. The reason for our travel was leisure, and the length of stay, 1 week. All right, another example would be Pigeon Point Beach. I went with my family, and the reason for travel was escapism, just to get away from the normal everyday activities, to relax, de-stress, and the length of stay was just about 3 hours. Final example, went to New York by myself, and I went to do some shopping, okay? And I stayed 1 week. So your example, your answer should look something like this, okay? So if you traveled, the length of stay, the reason, and the persons who you're traveling with fit any description here, then you would have taken part in tourism. You were a tourist for that length of time, okay? So today we're going to be defining tourism. We'll be classifying the different types of tourists. We will describe push and pull factors. And finally, we'll discuss LIPRA's tourism system and how they're interconnected. Okay, so tourism comprises the activities of persons traveling to and staying in places outside of their usual environment for not more than a consecutive year, for business, leisure, and other purposes. Okay? So a tourist, so in our previous example, in our previous activity, we looked at the reasons for travel. We looked at where we went, so somewhere different from our usual environment, our home, okay? And it was less than a year. So we took part in tourism. So in order for travel to be considered tourism, one must travel outside of his or her environment. The purpose must not be for remuneration. The duration must be less than a year. Okay, so if you're traveling and you're getting paid, number 2, then you're not taking part in tourism. So when you're coming up with your examples, or if you completely forget the exact definition of tourism, you have to construct your own answer. Make sure that you hit all of these points. All right, so now we're getting into the classification of tourists. So you have international tourists, regional and domestic tourists. Now, tourists can be broken down into other categories, but these are the main ones. All right, so let's start with international tourists. An international tourist is one who travels outside of his own country, either without or within a defined geographical region. So for example, an Englishman traveling to Barbuda. Okay? Regional tourist is one visiting within a defined geographical region. So for example, a Dominican visiting St. Kitts. Okay, so that's within the Caribbean region, or you can say within the Lesser Antilles. Okay? A domestic tourist is one spending at least one night away from his normal place of residence, but within his own country of residence. For example, a person in Old Road visiting Fort James, or someone in Point or Villa. Okay? So yes, you can be a tourist within your own country. Okay, so now we move on to push factors. Push and pull factors are important in tourism. They are important for marketing purposes. They're important to know as a hotelier or as a business owner, because you want to know what drives your tourists to make the decision to travel, okay? So a push factor is origin related, it's intangible or intrinsic desires of the individual traveler. So some examples include the desire to escape. So you're stressed, going to work or going to school every day, you just want to get away from everything, so you want to escape. Rest and relaxation. You need to take a trip, you need to relax, get your mind off of, whatever reason it is. So it's intrinsic. That's what intrinsic means. Health and fitness. Maybe you had a surgery, you need to recoup from your surgery. Certain destinations that you can go to that help you heal. So you have St. Lucia, you have the Sulphur Springs and so on. These destinations are very good locations for health. Fitness, countries like Dominica where it's really mountainous. You have a lot of hiking, zip lining and so on. You want to do healthy activities or adventurous activities, you'll go to these destinations. And then you can also tie in adventure and also prestige. Certain destinations are known to be prestigious or high-end. So if you visit, let's say, even St. Bart's, it can be seen to mean that, okay, this is a very expensive destination. It's high-end, it's catered to the rich and the famous. So it's a prestigious destination for you to go to. And social interaction. Persons travel to meet people, to socialize, to interact, to meet life partners and so on. So that is something that maybe you may not travel for that, but there are other persons who find this as a push factor, something that's going to push them or encourage them to take that trip, okay, to actually travel and to travel to a certain destination, okay? So we have pull factors now, are those that emerge as a result of the attractiveness of a destination as it is perceived by the traveler, which include tangible resources, so physical resources like the buildings or the attractions that is at the destination, as well as travelers' perceptions and expectations. So what you would have heard in the media, what you would have heard from your friends, family, who have actually visited the destination. So you're gonna, your friends would have said, oh, you need to visit Antigua. It's so nice, we did this, we did that, and it's gonna sound really nice to you, then you're gonna wanna take a trip to that destination. So you have certain expectations, you have a good perception of the destination. So that's a pull factor. Benefits expected and marketing image of the destination. Okay, so the country itself, the marketing team or the Ministry of Tourism, by extension, the Tourism Authority, the ones who are in charge of marketing the destination puts out images or put out images of the destination to lure tourists here. Okay, not only the tourism authority, but the tourism businesses within that destination do their own individual marketing. So these pull factors, push and pull factors, are very important for marketers and tourism businesses to understand in order for them to cater to the tourists, potential tourists, okay? In order for them to tailor their marketing campaigns. Okay, so if you know that your segment that you're looking at travels for adventure or they travel for relaxation, then the images that you're going to put out is going to showcase, you know, pictures of nice, relaxing beach, bright sun, blue waters, white sand, and a lounge chair, right? And some drinks. That image itself is going to appeal to someone who wants to get away for relaxation. Or you can have an ad with ziplining, person ziplining through the trees, hiking and so on, and that would appeal to the adventure traveler, okay? So push and pull factors are very important. So some pull factors include events and activities. So we know persons travel to Antigua for our carnival, sailing week, and so on. Easy access and affordable. So our proximity to, let's say, our source markets, so the United States or England, and we're pretty affordable. So that would play a part in pulling customers down here. Persons always prefer to visit places which are safe and convenient and affordable. And we're pretty safe. Yes, we do have crime, but compared to other countries, we are safe. And history and culture. So if you're traveling to experience the culture, once the destination has a rich culture for you to experience, then that is a pull factor as well. All right, so we move on to the tourism system. Okay, so a tourism system is a framework that enables us to understand the overall process of tourism travel from both the suppliers and the purchasers' perspective, while identifying the organizations that influence and regulate them. So this tourist system is looking at tourism on a whole in terms of the suppliers, so the businesses who are providing these services, the tourism services, so your accommodations, your transportation, and so on. Those are the suppliers, and the purchasers, which are the tourists, okay? So the tourism system has 5 elements. And this is the LIPERS tourism system that we would be talking about. So the first element is the tourists. There will be no tourism without the tourists, persons who are actually traveling. Your tourist generating region. So where are the tourists actually coming from? Okay, so you have the source, our source markets will be the tourist generating region. So our source markets in Antigua would be the US, the UK, Canada. All right, so those are the generating regions. So in the generating region is where you get the push, the motivation to travel. In the generating region, the tourist searches for the information. So this is where they get all the information about the destination that they're gonna do. Because right now, persons are planning their own vacation. Some tourists still prefer to go to travel agencies, but a lot of tourists like to plan and execute their own vacation. So they will be doing their research from their home. and it's also where the travel agencies are. Then you have the transit route region. So in the transit route region, this is where you have your connecting flights. Okay, so unless you're booking a straight flight to your destination, you'd have the transit route region. So in this region, you have Puerto Rico. So some flights you can take straight from the US, depending on where you're coming from. In other cases, you have to pass through Puerto Rico or pass through some other hub to get to your final destination. So Puerto Rico, for example, will be an example of the transit route region. So it's the intermediate places visited en route to your destination. And in some instances, there are persons who, let's say you know that you need to stop off in Puerto Rico to catch a flight. And there is this nice restaurant that you heard about. You're gonna perhaps book your flight for later on in the night. You come in earlier and you go and visit this restaurant, you visit some other sites. Okay, so the transit route region is a part of the system as well for these reasons. Okay, so no longer persons just sitting in the airport waiting for their flights. And in some instances, you actually need to stay over. Okay, so you have accommodation services, transportation services alive and functioning as well in the transit route region. And it's the location of the transportation sector. Then 4, you have the destination region. So the reason for tourism. So in the destination region, is the reason for tourism. Range of special places distinguished from everyday location of the hospitality. Okay, so this is why you're coming, you're traveling. Okay, you're traveling for the sights, you're traveling for the accommodation, the people, the atmosphere. The destination region experiences the full impact of the tourism industry. So planning and management strategies are implemented here. So when it says it experiences the full impact of the tourism industry, we live here, you live in Antigua, you know what it's like to have tourists within your destination and what it means, okay? From a socio-cultural point of view, from an economic point of view, from an environmental point of view. Those are the 3 pillars that you would have learned about during the term. And finally, the travel and tourism industry. So the travel and the tourism industry would include your transportation, your accommodation, tour operators, tourism organization, and ancillary services. So all the businesses that make up the travel and tourism industry is included in the tourism system. So question, why are all the elements, or are all the elements of the system interdependent? Yes or no? Do you think all the elements are interdependent, or do they function separately? Okay, and I'll give you a hint. The economic downturn in the US in 2008. So maybe you're too young to remember, or maybe you weren't paying attention. But when the US is our source market, and anything that happens in one element of the system is going to affect the other elements of the system. Okay? So if the US, or when the economic downturn happened, what do you think happened? Flights stopped coming, persons stopped traveling. Well, let me start at the beginning. Persons stopped traveling, persons were losing their jobs, so they could not travel. Okay? The money that you would, or the disposable income that you would have to travel, you're using it or you're conserving it to buy food and take care of your family. So you will not be traveling. Okay? And then as a result, the other elements within the system is affected. Okay? And this is a CAPE question. So you should try and understand this tourism system a lot more. All right, so this is just a simple diagram of the LIPER's tourism system. This is a theorist that came up with this model. Okay, so you have the generating region here, where you have the push factors that is actually pushing the tourists to travel. The tourists from the US or the UK or Canada, what is pushing them to travel here? The transit route region, persons departing, the destination region and the generating region, and returning, okay? And the tourist destination region, where you have the pull factors, what is lowering the tourists from the generating region to the destination region, okay? And below here, you have all the different travel and tourism businesses, okay? So as we close, I'm going to leave a practice question with you. So you're going to draw from the LIPER's tourism system. Discuss how COVID-19 has affected Antigua and Barbuda's tourism industry in the early and later stages of the pandemic. Also, you're going to highlight 3 strategies that the government is currently implementing in preparation for the reopening of the economy and, by extension, the tourism industry. This is a big question, and it's a good practice question for you to get ready for Cape. Okay, so thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.
You've been watching Homeschool 101, a partnership between ABS Television and the Ministry of Education. Thank you for viewing this lesson. Join us again next time.